I lost a sister and a professional partner and a best friend in one fell swoop. And it was tough. And it is tough.
I'm not a piano player, a real one. I think maybe that's one of the reasons I got into writing, just not to have to go up against Oscar Peterson or Andre Previn and guys like that, because they really had chops.
Hi everybody, I'm John Tesh and welcome to One on One. Well, today's show is definitely one of those where you can name that tune in 3 notes. Try this one, Moon River, or how about the Pink Panther theme, or the Days of Wine and Roses. All of those were creations of Hollywood composer Henry Mancini. He has been nominated for a phenomenal 71 Grammys, and he has 4 Oscars. And Richard Carpenter, he and his sister recorded such hits as We've Only Just Begun and Rainy Days and Mondays. The critics called their music white bread, but audiences didn't care. Today, Richard Carpenter talks about his music and the tragic loss of his sister, Karen. Stay with us. There are stories from people who have told you that your music or your songs have changed their lives?
Yes, there have been. My daughter Felice wrote a poem. Maybe you know the tune. The Carpenters recorded it, called Sometimes. And she just said, sometimes, not often enough, we forget to say I love you. That was that. Just a short poem. So I thought it was very touching, and I wrote music for it. And there are more people who tell me that that's the song that they got married to. You know, so maybe that's one of the things that's nice about having music out there that affects people.
Why do birds suddenly appear?
They were clean cut in their 20s and had a hit on their hands with the release of their second album, Close to You. For Karen and Richard Carpenter, the 70s started as a decade of promise. Although the critics dismissed their brand of music as bland, this Ken and Barbie of easy listening scored a string of hits. Altogether, they were awarded 8 gold albums and 10 gold singles. Just 2 years after they released their first album, they received their 3rd Grammy Award for Best Pop Vocal. But in spite of their success, they were still living at home with their parents.
We've only just begun.
They were close from the very beginning. 4 years her senior, Richard was always interested in music and studied piano at Yale. But Karen was interested in the drums, and it was at Richard's urging that she started to sing. And the rest is music history.
Everywhere, like a child's eyes on a Christmas.
But behind the wholesome image, Richard was battling a drug problem, and Karen an eating disorder. Hers was a tragic story that was later told in the movie The Karen Carpenter Story, with Richard serving as executive producer.
Oh my God. Karen, what's happening? You've wasted away. Wait.
Karen was obsessed with her weight and would drop to as low as 80 pounds. As her health worsened, her doctor questioned her parents about Karen's need to please and to be loved.
Are you saying that we don't love Karen? But have you told her that you love her? Well, naturally
we don't do things that way.
Doctors couldn't help Karen, and at just 32, she died in her parents' home of heart failure brought on by her anorexia nervosa. These days, Richard spends his time at the piano and is compiling several of their hits for a special holiday release. He still lives in Downey, just a few minutes from his parents, with his wife and 2 children. But as one-on-one correspondent Jennifer Valapi learned, a day doesn't go by when Richard isn't reminded of his family's loss.
You must have felt very lost when she died.
I lost a sister and a professional partner and a best friend in one fell swoop. And it was tough. And it is tough.
What has it been like recording without Karen?
Well, it's a bittersweet affair. I've spent a great amount of time in the studio since her passing, mostly as keeper of the flame.
The 2 of you were so close for so many years. Was it ever difficult? Did you, and working together constantly, did you fight at all?
Every now and again we would get into a squabble. Of course, we were getting older, and I was wanting a little bit more. I just wanted to be by myself every now and again. So there'd be some friction, and then the problems we both got ourselves into. were cause for friction, definitely.
You mean you had a problem with quaaludes?
Sleeping pills,
wasn't it?
yeah, quaaludes.
How did that happen?
I wasn't sleeping well, and I came home, and these things were fairly new, and the doctor had prescribed them for my mother. And she said, why don't you try one? As the years went by, I started to take more. So what would happen is I'd take 5 or something like that, and within 15 minutes, I was gone. Hour later, I was up.
Really?
Take a few more. Hour later, a couple hours later, up. It was no good.
What was happening to you on stage at this point?
Oh, on stage, I say it didn't affect my ability to get the job done until late 78. But by then, I had the shakes.
You're trembling.
Yeah, so I couldn't play worth a damn.
And then you realize, obviously, you have to get help, right?
Yes.
What did you do?
Well, our attorney, Warner, and manager Jerry Weintraub looked around at different facilities and settled on one in Topeka, Kansas. And here I was at this facility in this bleak weather in the middle of January. Of course, you're without your crutch, but I toughed it out. And of course, right off the bat, I slept better than I had in years, because they were starting to take all that junk out of my system.